Hello, I'm Max Rushton. Welcome to a brand new podcast from Sky Sports. We're live on. We're on the Sky Sports website there. We're live on Facebook there. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, you'll know we're on iTunes because you're listening to us. The working title. This is Harry, by the way. I'll introduce you properly in a minute, Harry. The working title for this is Sky Sports Premier League Predictions Podcast: Man of the People versus Head of Data. All right, it's a Premier League predictions podcast using statistics.
Yes.
And that's where you come in.
It is.
But not in a boring way that people use statistics.
That's where you come in.
That's where I come in. Thanks, Harry. Right, representing the people is me, Max Rushton, host of the increasingly popular Fantasy Football Club. This is what it says here. And what I like to call the Soccer AM glory years of 2008 to 15, although I don't have any stats to back that up. My adversary for this pod is Head of Data, Harry Carr. Hello, Harry Carr.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Is your actual title Head of Data?
Head of Sky Data. So actually that's something I do with the Sky News.
Right.
You might have seen me this morning talking about the NHS. This is much more interesting.
Yeah, okay. How is the NHS?
The NHS is not doing as well as one might hope.
Okay. In danger of relegation?
In danger of relegation,
okay,
definitely.
That's fine.
Slipping down the leaderboard.
Hopefully the NHS will get some parachute payments if it does go down. I've got some questions so people can get to know you.
Yep.
All right. And, work out if you are worthy of Head of Data as your title.
I worry.
Full name?
Harry David Carr.
Okay. Age?
26.
Weight?
About 13 stone.
Okay. I'm about 14. And I think that's
we're about
9
the same height,
kilos
that's right.
overweight. Football team?
Newcastle United.
Okay.
I apologise.
GCSE results?
A stars, obvs.
All the way?
No, I got 4 A's actually. I let it side down, but I got an A level early at the same time, so it counts.
Okay. So you are a brain box. You're justifiably in your role as Head of Data.
I think so. Although man of the people, Oxford grad, I feel there's a bit of question.
I don't know what you're talking about. Are you the son of Stato from the original Fantasy Football?
I'm not.
You're probably too young to remember.
I'm not. That was before my time, really.
Okay. And do you have any other accomplishments that will impress the viewers on the website, the Facebook, or listening on the podcast, that will impress them as to why they should trust you as Head of Data?
I recently correctly tipped Benoit Hamon to become the Socialist Party candidate in France. So there you go. There is a relevant.
Okay, and I'm a sceptic. Okay. Yeah. You're the sort of pro-zone Sam Allardyce.
Yeah. And
I'm the Harry Redknapp, watch the game, go on a hunch type thing.
Yeah,
okay.
that seems fair.
Now, what we'd like from you on Facebook is any questions about anything, ideally football-based, but that involves statistics, because we have a Head of Data here. Be creative, but ask us anything. Once I've worked out how to use my phone and get the video up, we'll get your questions and read your comments straight away. We've had a lot of comments already. This is
that's
very
exciting.
Let me just turn
We can
the volume
hear
down.
ourselves, I know.
No, that's fine. This is all part of it. Thank you, Danny O'Connor, who said something about Arsene Wenger that we can't read out. But yeah, keep those coming. We'll ask your questions as they come in. How are you with insults, by the way?
I'm okay.
Okay,
I
that's
touch Sky News and do political polling, so there's plenty of fire comes my way.
Okay, Nicola says, how does Giroud's goal per minute this season stack up with some of the other strikers?
Not terribly well, to be honest. He's not as bad as he would be because he's off the bench quite a lot. He seems to have been all right, but he's not tip top. He's a good striker. He's not a world class striker, and they're kind of filling the stats with that.
Okay, interesting. I just threw that straight at you. We hadn't prepped that, and you knew it already. Okay, well, look, what we're going to do for the rest of the season is this: we'll predict the games in the Premier League. All right. I will be armed with just my own thoughts, which is not a great deal. You have your enormous brain and the entire Sky Sports stats department in your armoury, okay?
Absolutely.
And it'll be 3 points if you get an exact score, 2 points if you get the result right, win, lose or draw, and 0 points if you are wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Before that, we're going to look at the whole season, right? We're going to look at the end of the season. You have compiled the Premier League as it will finish using what?
So it basically uses a rankings set used by chess players originally.
Right.
We've basically adjusted that to work with football. The original chess thing didn't really cope with draws, so we've had to deal with that. It takes into account home advantage, shots ratios, the actual goal margins, and the strength of the schedule kind of going forwards.
Right, okay.
And then basically it runs through a thing called a Monte Carlo simulation, and we work out what the percentage likelihood is that each team will finish in each position and the amount of points they're likely to get.
And will you be putting your mortgage on this exact league table? This is exactly how it's going to finish?
No, so the whole point of it is we put probabilities of
Okay.
how likely it is that each time it's going to win or lose. So, for example, we've got Chelsea at the top for now.
Yeah.
We have 91% chance of winning the league. We think that 9 times out of 10 from this position,
Right.
Chelsea will go on to win it.
Okay, I've got Chelsea top as well.
Yeah.
What did I say? Do you want to know my top 6?
You go for your top 6.
I've gone Chelsea, Spurs, going with my heart there because I think Man City will overtake them. Chelsea, Spurs, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United.
Are you a
That's my top
City?
6.
You a City
I'm a
fan?
Spurs.
Spurs
I'm a
fan.
Cambridge fan, but Spurs are my big team who win things.
Okay.
Please insult me on Facebook. Because people don't like that.
So I think mine's similar. I didn't quite catch all of those. So we've got 91% Chelsea to win.
Okay.
And then the second one is 5% on Spurs again. So
Really?
Spurs are
Okay.
second for us.
Okay.
They have 87% chance of getting to the top 4, which is pretty good for Spurs. 2% chance Man City and 1% chance Arsenal in 4th. So we have Man United and Liverpool missing out on the top 4.
Really?
But it's really close, to be fair. So we think there's 87% chance the Spurs will win it. Chelsea are pretty much guaranteed. 2/3 chance Man City, about 60% Arsenal, 41% Man United, and 36% Liverpool.
Nelson Macharo says, never will Man United remain in 6th position, Harry. What do you say to Nelson?
Well, I'd say that it's not impossible that they will end up in 6th, and actually we have them in 5th there. But actually, I actually have a bet on with Faisal Islam, our political editor, that
Right.
they'll finish ahead. That this was back when we showed Liverpool finishing ahead of United quite comfortably a couple of weeks back. So it's not gone terribly well for Klopp since.
No, it hasn't.
And not well for the predictor, actually, for those 2 games. I don't think anyone would have predicted Liverpool losing last week. So.
Nelson has not given us any information as to why we should trust him either.
No.
So, if you give it out, you've got to just send us your CV, if you would, Nelson. Now, Colin Spears writes, where will Everton finish? And this can take us on to the rest of the top of the table.
So
'Cause that is hard,
It is tough.
That is hard to predict. I'm going to say it's hard for you.
Yeah,
I haven't even bothered. But what happens sort of 7th to 13th, which is essentially the same position?
So basically, Everton are quite clearly the best of the rest, as far as we're concerned. So they even have a 10%. They're as likely to get into the top 4 as Chelsea are to lose the title, in our opinion. So Everton are definitely the kind of one knocking on the door to try and get into that top 6. The rest are kind of much of a muchness. So they have the West Broms, the West Hams, even Burnley.
Yeah.
We reckon are very safe.
Okay.
And much more so than if you look at kind of the bookies or whatever. My tip would be Burnley are overrated for relegation and were through quite a lot of this season compared with what it's always kind of looked like in our model. Then you kind of get down then to the bottom half. So if you look at relegation candidates, we have Palace are not nailed on, but 70% to
I've
go
got Palace,
down.
Middlesbrough, Sunderland.
So we've got Palace, Sunderland, Hull. I've got in there. You reckon the Silver's going to turn it round?
Well, I just looked at the table today. I mean, I've not based this on anything, and I just thought I didn't see how low Middlesbrough were, and no one's talked about them for a while, and people have talked about Hull. They've had a little bounce from Marco Silva. Ask me in 2 weeks, I'll change my mind. But right now, that's
You
my
reckon
team.
that's it? So again, if you look at the bookies, Palace for a long time. I don't know what they're looking like now, but because of the Sam Allardyce effect, there was a big sort of assumption that he would turn it round in exactly the way that he did, to be fair, with Sunderland.
Yeah.
And you can see that, and has done previously.
Is that an
with lots
example
clubs,
of where people, just immediately, just everyone's hunch, every ex-pro, a load of journalists all went, Big Sam will come in, and therefore they'll survive. So nobody did any actual work, no one did any research, no one looked at anything. They just went, oh, Big Sam's good at this.
Yeah, I think so. And to be fair, he has got a really good track record. He is one of those managers where usually changing managers doesn't really make that much of a difference at all. So actually, if you take teams which have kind of gone below the average kind of point you'd expect them to get, if you take the ones who change their manager and the ones that don't, then actually you see a similar kind of bounce, which is that you regress to the mean. You essentially go back to the average results. You've basically been unlucky usually if you're going further down.
Football podcast that has used the phrase regress to the mean. I'd just like to point out.
I apologise.
All the better for it.
You can see that with the likes of West Ham. There was lots of talk of them getting rid of Slaven Bilic, but they've now bounced right back up. Crystal Palace did change their manager, has gone down, but also you get sometimes it does work out. Hull City, for example, have changed their manager and things have gone through, but that doesn't necessarily yet it might be that Silva's very, very good, and he'll prove that over several seasons. You cannot judge a manager by a handful of games, otherwise Tim Sherwood would be the next England manager.
Annick says, will Steve Mandanda play again and save Palace from relegation?
I don't know, but yeah, maybe. I don't think Wayne Hennessy is too bad, is he?
They're both very good keepers. Okay, so that's the top. You've done the bottom of the league. Who's going down?
So we've got Palace, Sunderland, and Hull. Although actually the ones just above them, so Swansea, Leicester, and Borough are given fairly good shouts, so about a third each of going down. I think. Leicester is obviously the big story there. That it was up until recently they looked relatively safe. We were giving them kind of 10-ish% chance of relegation, but they've been really hammered hard the last couple of matches. Like when you lose badly, you get punished in our
affects your
predictor.
percentages, does it?
So yeah, if you lose by 3 goals, you lose more points than if you lost by 1 goal or whatever. Especially at home, and. Yeah, basically they are not looking safe at all, which would be a real story if they get relegated after winning the title.
Barry says De Gea should stay, which is totally relevant to what we were just discussing.
I don't disagree if you're a Man United fan.
No, I think you're right. Okay, well, look, that's the end for the website. If you've watched this and enjoyed it, or you have nothing better to do, you can either look back on Facebook and watch the rest of our predictions live, or listen to the podcast. But thank you for watching this bit.